Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on Friday. I know it's really hard to get up after data night out, so it's great to see so many folks making it up and out here. I was thinking of a few creative ways to start a conversation today. And one of them my boss said wouldn't work, so I'm just gonna skip it, but I was thinking of coming out here like Freddie Mercury and going, "Hey-oh." All right, we can cross that off the bucket list. He said it wouldn't work. And then the other one was riffing on deer data, which was a key component of the keynote itself. And I want everyone to know that there are 1.4 million deer in the state of Michigan. And a gentleman did spot a 3-antlered deer actually just this winter. And I decided, those are really fun, they lead in well, but probably the best way to start a conversation like this is with a little story. That I was actually here at Tableau conference 2 years ago. And I got the opportunity to give a talk there as well. And that evening I attended one of the networking sessions, and I heard someone talking about the struggles that they were having deploying governed self-service at their organization. And finally he just said, you know what? I know I'm doing it right when no one's happy. And I know that a few people chuckle and smile when you hear that phrase. And it got me thinking, and I've been thinking for the past few years, does it have to be this way? I've talked with more than 200 healthcare organizations to date, and a lot of them have struggles in these areas. And I feel like there's some key things that everyone can do to really better enable governed self-service at your organizations. We've never had more data. We've never had consumers that are hungrier for information. So how do we go about getting that into their hands? Well, my name is Austin Montgomery. I'm the VP of Services at Prominence Advisors. I spent the last 12 years working in healthcare. Today, I'll cover these key points in the conversation. The 3 things every healthcare leader needs to know. We'll go through those in detail. We'll do what's always exciting for me, which is a live demonstration for everyone, so fingers crossed it all goes right. A little bit of time for question and answer at the end. And finally, some things that you can take back home as next steps. I'm a big believer that if you're attending sessions like this, you ought to be able to take something away other than just an idea, but something tangible as well. So what are those 3 things that every healthcare leader needs to know? Well, the first one is, and it's no surprise, we have data in more places than ever before. You must be able to quickly integrate data from any source that you have today, and also the sources that are coming tomorrow. You need to be able to embed analytics directly within the workflow, but the key here is they have to drive action. Everyone I talk to talks about being a data-driven organization, having a data-driven culture. Embedding those analytics in the home workspace is going to be key to that, but then making sure that you can act on that data is going to be critical as well. And then finally, how do you go about deploying comprehensive solutions as opposed to just one-off answers to questions that folks have, truly enabling self-service with the right platforms? So I'll go into each one of these in a little bit more detail and talk about some of the success stories that we've seen organizations have when they implement these foundational elements of governed self-service. First, quickly integrating data from all source systems. Data doesn't live in one place. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone here. I bet everyone here has no fewer than, I'd say, 15 systems that they regularly pull data from and bring together in one place. Whether it's your EHR, your ERP systems, human resources, time and attendance, press gaining, third-party payer information, all of those need to be able to come together, but they also need to come together in a sustainable way. And this is why when I talk with data scientists, I hear them saying, well, I spend about 80% of my time bringing data together and preparing it, and that means I only have 20% of my time to complain about preparing data and bringing it together. So what does this challenge really look like when you put it into perspective of what people are dealing with and what organizations are dealing with today? Well, in the past 3 years alone, healthcare data has grown about 900%. And when you look at a number like that, it's pretty easy to see why organizations struggle to get their hands around all of the data that they have. And it's going to continue to grow. Over the next 6 years, we'll tack on another 630% growth, not only in the quantity of the data, but in the breadth of the data as well, as more and more devices come online and make more and more information available. So having a platform to quickly integrate this data is going to be crucial to ongoing success. Second point embedding analytics in the workflow to drive action. It's not just about getting the data, it's about putting it somewhere that it's useful. The majority of organizations that I've worked with, and feel free to raise your hand if you know this to be true as well, have a button for reports instead of it being the home screen for a lot of folks. I know a lot of organizations have that. And if you look at making people go to a separate system or go to a separate location to try and access their information and their data, you actually see about a 50% drop-off rate in terms of people continuing on and using that data. Now, healthcare is a little different. We're not going to see that kind of drop-off rate because it's mandatory that physicians and that providers all go out and get the information that they need to best care for the patient. So we don't see this drop-off rate in healthcare. That's great, right? Well, measure your satisfaction scores with providers going through the workflows to get that data and bring it together. That's where it's going to show up. A key focus from this one is don't make analytics an afterthought. For all the talk we have about being data-driven, put it front and center, show them the value of the information, and let them drive their workflow from it. And then the last one, deploying comprehensive solutions. So I know that I've heard no fewer than a dozen times this year, people ask me or my team when we're working with a customer, just get me this piece of data. It's all I need. If you get me that, I'll be happy. I really want to believe those people, but every time we've done that, it's a little bit like if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want some milk. If you give a smart person some information, they're going to want some more. And so you have to enable them with a comprehensive solution that lets them answer those next questions that they have off of that data that they say, I need. And then the last piece of a comprehensive solution isn't just the data set that you're pushing up to people, it's making sure that this data is accessible everywhere. I know a lot of people do reporting work for the EHR, and then there's another team that does analytics for the organization. Well, now we have two places that we're pushing out potentially the same information, potentially through different tools, and opening ourselves up to potentially a governance nightmare trying to reconcile all of these things together. So how do you use one platform to get information to folks that are working in any system within your organization? Tableau allows us to do that. We'll show a little bit of what that looks like in just a second as well. So what does success look like when organizations are doing these key principles? Like bringing data together from disparate systems quickly to create dashboards and information for their consumers that drive action. Well, at University Hospital of New Jersey, we combined 4 disparate data sources with them for the first time for all of their executives. This brought together, for the first time at UH&J, volume information, throughput information, quality information, finance information, and more into one scorecard. That at a glance, they could see the performance of the organization at that point in time, trended over time as well, and then be able to drill into the details in additional dashboards. Embedding within the workflow is the second point. And what does success here look like? Well, at Mount Sinai in New York, they had the challenge of empowering physicians with data so that way they could better manage their populations. And we worked with them to create a frictionless workflow to embed Tableau directly into the EHR, but not only have it embedded, enable it to launch directly to the patient's chart. So there's no waiting to take action. It's seamless. And what does this look like? Well, at some point, Judy at Epic will return my calls and I'll get a demo set on my computer, but I think she might have blocked me recently. But it looks like a dashboard embedded directly into the EHR. It's the home workspace of the provider. So I log in, I have my dashboard, and I can drill down to patient level details or encounter level details, get people the granular information that they need so they have the context that they need to make the right decision. And then from here, don't make anyone do anything else, enable them to jump directly to the patient's chart. Then they're in the chart and immediately taking action, placing an order, making sure that next PCP visit is booked, they're ready to go. And then the last one, what does success look like when you deploy a comprehensive solution? Well, at Excella Health, for the first time, they had 100% trust in their information. And they definitely saved several hundreds of thousands of dollars by putting this level of analytics in the hands of their OR managers and directors. But they said, and there is a webinar out there that we did with Tableau and Excella, they state the most valuable thing that they got was the fact that everyone's trusting the information. And so this level of comprehensiveness, plus the trust, plus obviously education to the consumers, led to 0 ad hoc report requests at the launch of the dashboard. That means no one's having to pull basic volume information or cost information. It's all available to the end users, and they did it themselves. Additionally, they had no difficulty answering those next questions using a platform like Tableau. So now I'm going to get into a live demo of what these things look like in action for organizations across the country. But before I do, just a quick recap. We've been talking about getting data from anywhere, turning it into information for anyone who needs it, making sure that it's trusted by everyone, and needing to do it faster than ever. So how do we do this? Well, we all know that we start from our disparate data sources that exist today. And this is definitely a simplification compared to what most organizations have. And from here, we do need a platform to integrate this data together. The customers that we work with generally tend to use our platform that we've developed working with 70 different healthcare customers to get that data quickly together and prepared and then delivered to any Tableau dashboard that can be consumed for anyone across the continuum of healthcare within the organization. So in the examples that I'm going to show in just a moment, we'll see some of our tools in addition to some of our pre-built content. And these tools enable things like automatic incremental data extraction, data refreshing, task management, dependency management, versioning, monitoring. And the prep engine itself contains pre-built models and transformations, as well as best practice visualizations and documentation on all of the metrics and KPIs that we'll see. So, without further ado, I have to understand what I'm going to be doing in this live demonstration. Well, I'm going to add claims information to our platform. That's one thing that's been requested, and I want to give everyone access to it so that way they can bring it into their dashboard as needed. I need to update our definition for pediatric age as well. Our governance council just met. We're changing the age from 16, I believe it is, to 18 in this instance. And I'm going to need to verify that our EHR integration is working. And lastly, I need to find high-cost surgeons in otolaryngology. Our director in that department went on vacation. He said, hey, when I get back, I need this information on my desk. So I have to do all of this, and I only have about 5 minutes. So I believe that for most folks in here, this is a pretty real-world situation for you as well. All right. So with that, I'm going to flip over, and I'm going to do my best to make sure I can zoom in on things so everyone can see what we're looking at here on the screen. But the first thing that I'm going to encounter is Prominence's Extraction Console. This is a tool that we use to get data from any source system and put it into the hands of consumers. So I need to add claims information. This might be something that's a little difficult if I'm coding it by hand or trying to manage these things by hand. But what I can do, if I can find my mouse. Oh. Now everyone's going to see the Extraction Console. Sorry about that. All right, so here's the Prominence Extraction Console. That's what I was trying to show before. All right, so the first thing that I need to do if I'm going to be adding claims information is make sure that I'm not already pulling it out. This allows me to see all of the data that we're currently pulling as an organization. And so if I want to see if we're pulling out that claims information, I can simply do a search for claims, whatever type, or whatever you call that data at your organization, maybe it's payer information. I see that we're not pulling it out. So now I have to go through the process of making sure that we get that data into our platform. And it's pretty cumbersome. I come over here and create a new task for the Extraction Console. I say our claims information is updated monthly. That's as frequently as we get it. No need to run it more often than that. So I'll set it to update monthly. I'll connect to the database that I know it resides in. It's our EDW. We have a standard DBO schema and the table name, simply claims. My primary key is claim ID, and the update field is claim date. Now it'll pull that data incrementally as we refresh into the future. From here, I can do additional things, like write custom code to make sure that I have join clauses or where clauses, but I'm pretty good for now, so I'm just going to enable this and hit create. Now I'm done. That Extraction Console is going to pull that claims information into our platform and allow people to integrate it into their models, put it into Tableau dashboards, really do what they need to from here. The next thing that I need to do now is update our pediatric age definition. And so we've coded all of our metrics in a very governable and scalable way. They all contain variables, so when we have to reset something, it's very easy for us to do. We actually have a console that manages all that configuration for us. And so similarly, I'll come in here and simply search for pediatrics. Actually, I'll start here. Oops. Always fun with a live demonstration. All right. And then from here, it's going to pull in, and now I can see I have my pediatric age. I need to update this definition. So I simply click on it, make the update to 18 for our group, and then I can make a comment saying that this was recently approved at our 2019 governance meeting. And now, all of the dashboards that reference pediatric age are going to be updated with our new age range. Obviously, I have to do communication and make sure people know that this change is coming, but that's all I have to do. Now everyone gets that same information. All right, so I'm cruising through this. The next thing that I have to do is go through our nurse scorecard and verify that our integration is working. So I'm actually going to open up our nurse scorecard that we have, and we've built the integration into this dashboard. It can be built into any dashboard, so that way any user can get down to that patient or encounter level and then jump directly to the patient's chart. So coming in, I'm going to see things like high-level details around our performance for core measures, psych assessments, all those key things. And if I want to look at the glossary to make sure I understand exactly what those definitions are, that's definitely something that I can do and dive into and get all the detail that I need. However, I'm going to focus just on these core measures, find a cohort of patients, and then verify I can jump to the chart if I want to. Now, a lot of red up here. It's all demo data. I promise none of your data looks like this. But just for the sake of the demonstration, I'm going to go into AMI3 and look at the cohort of patients that make up our most recent month of data. So Tableau has allowed me to get down to that patient level of detail, and now I can actually, after selecting in on an individual encounter or patient, actually directly from the dashboard, jump to the patient's chart. So when I click that link, I now see the patient's chart, and of course you're immediately saying, Austin, this isn't an EHR. Like I said, someday Judy will return my call. Until then, the screenshot suffices, but from here I can take whatever action I need, scheduling an appointment, placing orders, sending communications, whatever I need to do to make it happen. So this is working. The last thing that I have to do is find those high-cost surgeons in the otolaryngology service. So we do have a perioperative dashboard. Again, it's very extensive in terms of the information that it's going to give me, but what I want to focus on today are specifically costs and charges on a surgeon-by-surgeon basis. So I'm going to go to that tab of my dashboard, and I look at the visualizations here, and I see that we've got a lot of information, but potentially building a new viz would be required, but that might take a little bit of time. Trying to aggregate this manually won't work. So what I'm going to do is actually just jump into Ask Data. And because I do have that comprehensive data set behind the scenes, I'm going to be able to query this data really however I need to. So for example, if I'm looking for costs, I can pull in the sum of our log costs, and then I want to break this down. Actually, let's go right to otolaryngology. Keynote, if you're ever doing a live demo, make sure you choose an easy to spell service. And I can see the total cost here. It's not quite what I want, but we're getting closer. Let's add in that primary surgeon name. And now I've got this broken out in Ask Data, and I can immediately see my high-cost surgeons. But wait a minute, this isn't quite right. We actually don't want the sum. We want the average. That'll give us the best understanding of what these providers are doing, and maybe one layer deeper. I think some of you are kind of questioning whether or not I'm doing this correctly. I think we need a count of log IDs as well, so that way we can put it in context. If somebody's high cost but they've only got one case, maybe I don't want to focus in on them. But if they're high cost and they have 200 cases, those are probably the folks that I want to work with. And so now I've got this scatter plot. I was able to answer all of my questions in a matter of seconds, and judging by the time, I'm done in less than 5 minutes. So this is the power of what it looks like when you're doing all of these things with your organization. So I have just a few minutes left, just a couple more slides that I want to jump into here. now that we've gotten through, again, adding claims information to our platform so everyone has access to it, updating that pediatric age definition, verifying our EHR integration's working, finding high-cost surgeons in a specific service, all in about 5 minutes. So what are the things that you can do, that you can take home to your organization to start implementing some of these foundational steps? Well, there are 3 key things I think that you can take back and take to your organization. First, understanding where you are today. Now, a lot of folks sitting in this room, I'd say everyone in this room has a pretty good understanding of how you feel your organization's doing from a data perspective. Making sure that the rest of the organization feels that same way is very important. Oftentimes you'll have pockets of people who feel very comfortable in their data, other pockets of people who are very uncomfortable with the data that they receive or not confident in it, and they can't make decisions off of it. The second is prioritizing based on areas of greatest need. Making sure that you put the foundational pieces in place, because as we saw earlier, the amount of data and the data sources you're going to have to work with are only going to continue to grow as time moves on. And then finally, leveraging experience from those who have done it before. So assessing your current state. How can we help with this one? Well, after this session, for everyone who's here, you're going to get a link to take our governance self-service assessment. By responding to that one, it should only take you about 5 to 10 minutes. You'll receive back a tailored assessment of your performance, benchmarked against all the other healthcare organizations that have taken this survey. From there, you can also forward it to your colleagues. So if you have other people at your organization that you feel should be taking this survey and helping add to the information that you as an organization have about your capabilities, we'll also tailor it to your organization as well and deliver that back to you sometime in mid-December. Second is prioritizing based on greatest need, starting with the foundation, making sure that you have a desired future state that everyone's agreed upon and that everyone's aligned with. Success here looks like having a documented charter or a vision for your data and analytics goals for the long term, and making sure that people have accessibility to that documentation. Then the last piece is making sure that people that are involved understand their accountabilities. The second piece of prioritizing based on greatest need is making sure you have strong processes in place. I don't think this one's a surprise to the folks sitting here, but making sure that understanding how you're intaking new requests or updates to existing reports or analytics that you're deploying. Success here looks like documented processes that people can find. One thing that we've found to be very beneficial in helping consumers understand how these reports are coming out is actually at the back of your dashboard, just put a little link for help. And then you can link them out to submitting a ticket, and they don't have to remember to go somewhere else. And then finally, capable platforms. They have to be source agnostic. They have to be as automated as possible. We can't become the bottleneck as we produce these types of dashboards and reports, and they have to be focused on the future and self-service for those customers of yours. Success here looks like you have a data preparation and data science platform that resides in one place. You have a BI tool that can be used everywhere and on any device. And then lastly, leverage experience. At Tableau conference alone, there were more than 300 healthcare organizations in attendance. The healthcare cabana has been hopping with people the entire time that we've been here. There's a lot of good communication between organizations. Definitely talk to your peers. Understand where they're being successful, learn from them. Understanding where they have challenges where you might be able to help them out and guide them. They're a great group of folks, and everyone that I've talked to has been willing to help others. Additionally, at Prominence, we've worked with more than 70 healthcare organizations directly at our company, and the people at our company have worked with a combined 500 healthcare organizations today. We'll be in the cube just behind Data Cube 1 here as well to answer questions and provide live demonstrations or really talk about anything that's on the top of your mind from a data perspective. And with that, I'm going to close out. On here is the QR code. If you want to scan this with your phone, it'll give you a link to a little bit of free content. It'll also allow you to schedule time with us if you want to, and it'll have a link to the governance survey. I'll leave this up here for just a minute, but again, for all of those who have attended here, you will get an email with a link to that assessment after the conference. And thank you all very much for joining me this morning. As I mentioned, we'll be at the mini cube behind Data Cube 1 here. If you have any questions, just look for folks in the bright teal shirts. We'd be happy to help you out however we can. And of course, don't forget to rate the session in your mobile app. Have a great Friday, a wonderful weekend. If you have any questions, feel free to come up here. Otherwise, we'll be right over at the mini cube after the session here. Thanks, everyone.